So Everything Everywhere All at Once tells a story of... Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I have no fucking idea how to describe this movie. So if you're the type of person that doesn't typically go onto Twitter and see the film discourse or what the hot topic of the week of the month is, this month for certain it has been this little film called Everything Everywhere All at Once. One of those. This is a movie that I have never heard of. It's a trailer that I've never seen. I never saw the poster hanging anywhere. I only found out about this movie because almost every single person in my little circle of YouTube has slowly been talking about this movie throughout the past couple of weeks as it has expanded into different cities and different limited releases of theaters. And just about across the board, everyone's not only raving about this movie, but saying it's best of the year, one of the best of the year, one of the best of all time. And I'm not typically somebody that gets my expectations in a twist over film Twitter because, just my opinion, they tend to overhype a lot of shit. But this one got me. I said, okay, you know what? I got Friday afternoon free. I already had my video done for today, which you guys should have seen. 5 underrated haunted house movies. Definitely check that out. I partnered with Shudder. And so I said, you know what? Let me throw caution to the wind for a change and go see a movie that, judging on face value, I probably would not be that interested in. And maybe, just maybe, this will be one of those genuine surprises of the year that I will go and say, thank you, Twitter! Thank you for telling me about this movie that I would have otherwise never given a chance. So is Everything Everywhere All at Once one of those genuine surprises that I'm going to be proud to stamp into my top 10 of the year come the end of the year? Or is this another one of those films where I look at film Twitter and go, guys, really? This one? Starting off with the positives for Everything Everywhere All at Once, this movie is batshit insane. This movie is to the point where I couldn't even describe the plot to you. Let me try. Let me try to describe the plot. So you have Michelle Yeoh, you have Short Round, who I've not seen in years. We're gonna talk more about him. They're this couple that, their marriage isn't awesome. They run this rinky-dink little laundromat. They've got tax problems. You got Jamie Lee Curtis as their tax agent, the IRS agent. And essentially the movie starts off as this family drama. And I had no idea where it was going. I didn't watch a trailer, didn't read a plot synopsis. I walked in blind. And then out of nowhere, Short Round kind of materializes this new version of himself, and he's like, hey, there's this thing going on in the multiverse. There's this person, there's this entity that is going through and destroying all the other realities of the world. I'm not really your husband, I'm just another version of him, and you are humanity's last hope. And then he goes back to his regular self. And so essentially you have this regular woman, this everyday woman in Michelle Yeoh, who is now thrown into this multi-dimensional plot to where she is going to be possibly the savior of humanity. And so she warps between different versions of herself to learn different skills, be it martial arts or cooking or ballet or singing or whatever, to try to thwart this evil. If it sounds insane just in the description, I'm barely scratching the surface. This is a movie where all the way through to the point where the credits roll, as soon as you feel like it has gotten to its apex, it has gotten to the heights of absurdity, of hilarity, of ridiculousness, they do something that just trumps everything that you just saw. It never reached a point where the most ridiculous shit was behind you. They just kept doubling down and tripling down by the end of it. And I have said numerous times, I appreciate a movie that goes for it. Every single day, if you gave me the choice of, do you want to take a risk on a movie that does this bold, wild, unique concept? You might love it, you might not love it. Or do you want to go see this movie that's a safe bet that you'll have a decent time, but it's just like 1,000 other things you've seen before? I am always going to bet on this side. So I appreciate the fact that we have a movie like this that is so bold, so unique, so different from anything that you have ever seen. This might not be on your best of the year list, but this is a movie that if you go and see it, you are not going to forget about it by the end of 2022. And initially, I loved the sci-fi aspects to what were going on. There's some martial arts, there's some very fantastical elements that come in more so in the last half of the film, but the first half, the first chapter of everything, because it's split into chapter 1, everything, chapter 2, everywhere, chapter 3, all at once. The first chapter had a lot of sci-fi stuff. You know, there's a little bit of like Ready Player One stuff going on with Short Round, where he's got this little device in his head and they're driving around in a van while he's trying to contact Michelle Yeoh. There's these little earpieces and things that they have to do to warp over to different realities, and I was really intrigued with that side of things. Whenever it was science fiction, it really spoke to me. And even though it's wild, even though it was still like teetering on the line of maybe too much in that first chapter, I was really intrigued and really enjoying that whole sci-fi craziness that was going on with this multi-dimensional multiverse concept, because they were doing it in a way that I have never seen before. Michelle Yeoh is great in the lead role. She's pretty much good in anything I've ever seen her in. I don't watch everything that she's in because, as some of you guys know, I'm not really big into martial arts cinema or anything like that. It's just not really my thing. But when I do see her in things like Shang-Chi or anything else that she's been in that I've probably taken a gander at, she's always great, and she's great as the lead here. You got Short Round, and I'm not going to pronounce his name because I'm going to butcher it. I'll just call him Short Round. We have not seen this guy since The Goonies and since Indiana Jones: The Temple of Doom. He took a big break off of acting, and he started to come back to acting a few years ago, and this is by far the coolest thing that I've seen him do, and the best acting that I've seen him give since those early days. I mean, I loved him as a kid. I loved both of those characters in both of those movies, and he still has that charm. He's still really good, and he's really physical. All the best fight scenes in this movie involve his character in a fanny pack, so he was a great welcome presence in here, and I'm glad that I knew it was Short Round walking into it, because it just added this extra charm where I'm like, oh, he's back. Jamie Lee Curtis, if you are a fan of hers, and let's be honest, most of us are, you have never seen Jamie Lee Curtis like this. Her character and the different versions of her character throughout this movie, it's the wildest thing you have ever seen her do. I mean, she is great in this movie as one of the adversaries, not only just in the grounded real world as this IRS bitch, but as it kind of goes into the multi-dimensional craziness and she becomes like this martial arts fucking nemesis for Michelle Yeoh. Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, martial arts nemesis for Michelle Yeoh. And I also appreciated this movie's humor.
I'm another version of from another universe. I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today, no time to help you.
You know, it's not hilarious all the way throughout, and it certainly appeals to certain tastes and certain senses of humor, so not everybody's gonna laugh at this, but there were certain things, like one in particular. I was the only person in the theater, and I will get to that, and so I felt comfortable at one point to pull out my phone and actually message my buddy Sean Chandler, because he was the one that I kind of vetted, like, am I gonna like this movie? Should I check it out? And there was this object in the background in the first act of the film that anybody that picks up on it's gonna go, wait, is that? It couldn't be. And then it reaches a point in the movie where, yes, it becomes that thing. And I texted him, I was like, how did I know in the first 10 minutes that this thing was going to happen? And that particular moment right there was almost like out of a Jackass film or something. It just totally tonal shifts to this really, really out there sense of humor in certain spots of it. So a lot of different things being covered by this film. Martial arts, sci-fi, batshit crazy, family drama, Jackass humor, bodily insertions. Yeah. It goes there. And finally, you have to give props for the editing team on a movie like this, especially when you get to a point where all of these different multiverses are like converging on each other, and they have to make all of that make coherent sense to the audience with the way that they're splicing these scenes together and how they transition from one to one. I would not want that job. I consider myself a pretty good editor for the little small scale projects that I do, but if I was a professional, I would be scared to do the editing job on a movie like this, and whoever was in charge of it, they did a damn good job. Now moving on to the negatives. This is not necessarily the movie for me. As much as I can acknowledge all of the things that I just did that they do great, as much as I can appreciate how unique and how batshit crazy this movie is, and how it just goes for it continuously for the whole 2 hour and 12-minute runtime, this is not a movie that I will ever watch again. And I would be lying to you if I said that the enjoyment and the engagement that I had in the first chapter of this film maintained for the other two chapters, because once chapter 2 hit, the movie just got way too crazy for me. It got way too bonkers, way too batshit, and it was literally like an assault on my brain. There's just so many things going on in this film, from exposition to explanation of the rules, to multiple realities and multiple versions of these characters, to fight sequences, to visual gags. I mean, it's just constantly just in your face, just assaulting you with all of these different things that it's going for. And if you're somebody that loves that, you're gonna sit there and just bask in all of it. But there was a point in the movie where it got way too much for me, to where I was just like mentally and physically exhausted with what I was watching. And it goes without saying, this is not a movie for everybody. As much as you might see people acclaiming this as like one of the best ever, and I believe wholeheartedly that those people feel that this was one of the best ever, of the year, of all time, whatever, there is a large chunk of the general going movie audience that is not going to have the patience for this, is not going to have the interest for this. And even if you do sit through the entire thing, there's going to be a lot of people like myself that can acknowledge the great things about it, but this is never going to be a mainstay on their shelves or a movie that they want to revisit ever.
I can't stop coming, I'm sorry! Oh, it feels so good! Adios, turd nuggets.
To the point where I was one of 4 people in my theater watching this afternoon. One person gave up 15 minutes into the movie. It just got to a point where they just said, oh, hell no, and they walked out of the theater. And that was the first big laugh that I got in the movie, was just something was going on screen, and this woman just goes, oh, hell no, and she just walks the fuck out. But the other 2 people stuck with it. They were down there with me in the trenches. And then once it got to the point where this movie announced Chapter 2, I will admit, before this couple even stood up, I forgot that this thing was broken into chapters, because this thing felt like it was already about to end. And then it comes up Chapter 2, and I was like, holy shit. And I looked at my phone, I was like, oh my God, we're only an hour in? And then this older couple that were sitting down there watching this movie just slowly got their shit up, grabbed their drink and their popcorn, and moved the fuck on with their lives. And so for the last hour and 15 minutes of this movie, I was by myself. I was the only one that had the strength to stick through it. And I feel like a lot of people are gonna be that way with this movie, where they're gonna watch it, as soon as it starts to get going, they're gonna be intrigued with where things go, but ultimately this is a movie that just, it's gonna be too much for a lot of people, and I was one of those. And going along with it being too much, I do feel like the movie is too long. Now, 2 hours and 12 minutes doesn't sound that long by today's standards, when it feels like Marvel and DC are constantly competing for who can make the longest fucking movie in existence. But you watch a movie like this, and it's just so dense with visuals, with concepts, with characters, with transitions, and so many things going on, that it really is an experience that I feel like should have been shorter. I feel like something that's just that crazy and that much stuff to handle during your viewing experience, there's a certain point where most movie audiences are gonna tap out, and this movie easily went 20, maybe even 30 minutes past that point. I mean, there was a point in the flick where I thought it was about to go on and it was about to end, and then there was another hour, and then you started to get that multiple ending syndrome, to where it just feels like, where is this thing going? Like, ugh, is it gonna end soon? And I don't like having that experience with a movie, especially if I liked part of it, where I'm like, oh, fucking God, just end. And finally, even during the sections of the movie that I was really engaged and enjoying things, there are some concepts that they go for that was just way too weird for me. There's literally a dimension where people have hot dog fingers. There comes to a point where like this big evil black hole is literally a bagel, and there's this whole 2-minute dialogue scene where this bad guy is explaining why they made the black hole a bagel, and starts describing everything bagel seasoning and relating that to reality. And there's moments like that where I'm like, okay, moving on. So all in all, guys, I am glad that I checked this out. This is a movie experience that I'm glad that I've had, to where I can add to the conversation now, that I can say I saw the most unique film that I've seen in probably 5 years, and probably for the next 5 years. I'm glad that I had that experience. Whether or not you're going to walk out of this loving it and hailing it as one of your favorites, or walking out disliking it, or being somewhere in the middle with me where you can appreciate it, just not really your thing, I think it's a movie that, if it intrigues you, you should definitely give it a shot. So Everything Everywhere All at Once is not going to be for everybody, but this is going to be one of the most unique movie experiences you have ever had. So go in with modest expectations, and maybe you'll be surprised with one of your favorite movies of the year. But you can be safe and check it out online and stream it. So what do you guys think of this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once? Have you even heard of it before this review? Are you more or less interested after this review? Or have you already seen it? Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Is this one of the best of the year or all time for you? Or did you just feel like you just got assaulted by a movie the entire time? Let me know your thoughts down below, guys, and we will talk about it. Thank you for watching, and please like and share this video and hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed this review. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the Wizarding World. I just reviewed Fantastic Beasts yesterday, and so we're going to be talking about the Harry Potter films as well as the Fantastic Beasts films in a big fat ranking tomorrow. So if you're a fan of that world, definitely hit the subscribe button so you don't miss it. Thank you guys once again for watching, and remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.